I'm Nicola Tallant, and you're listening to Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs, and the sins of the underworld. We're Ireland's top podcast for 2025, and now we've got a new website. So if you want to learn more about crime and criminals, if you want stories, extras, and podcast subscriber specials, go to www.crimeworld.com.
So I was outside Fossa House actually the night that Eamon The Don Dunne was shot dead in 2010. It was a pub in Cabra, popular pub, and it basically it never reopened really. Certainly never opened as a working pub again. But I suppose it's finally we have developments, because I think there's been a lot of planning issues around it, but it's about to be turned into student accommodation.
Yeah, well, there's plans being submitted anyway, so I suppose it remains to be seen if there will be objections. But yeah, it's been, as you said, derelict since 2010, and the pub is called Fossa House. So they're going to hopefully turn it into a 6-story, 249-bed student accommodation.
Hopefully, is it? Hopefully, I mean that's speaking as a Cabra native.
Maybe not.
Well, not a Cabra.
Well, I don't mean hopefully, but is it better for something to be done with it?
Well, it is better.
We are living in a high housing crisis, Niall.
I know.
You might not want rowdy students on your doorstep.
That's not what I mean. Like, I don't know why anyway, I'm just saying that they seem to have. People seem to have a tendency to build student accommodation in residential areas where people want to live. But anyway, whether student accommodation is a good use of the property or not, it has become a real eyesore actually. Now, Eamon The Don Dunne's murder is still one of the most consequential murders, I suppose, of the last couple of decades. Eamon Dunne he took over from Marlow Hyland, who, of course, was from just up the road from Fossa House, just a few hundred metres away. Dunne had, I suppose, it is believed he received the okay to organise the murder of Hyland, and he was set to take over. But of course, he was ultimately shot dead by a Kinahan hit team in Fossa House. It was a very carefully executed assassination, really.
Yeah, it was. I think was it that murder there was like hallmarks between that, and I think there was on the scene of Love Hate where there was something recreated because he was in the pub with his trusted associates and his teenage daughter was there and she witnessed it. And I think there was 4 guys involved, wasn't there? And the hitman came in, obviously knew his target. There must have been pre-knowledge, he knew where exactly to go. And it was a weekend, I think, so it was quite busy.
Yeah.
And they did what they came to do, killed him, and they made their escape. And there has been arrests in that case, but no one's been charged.
No one's been charged, and while there was a lot of rumours at the time, it's become pretty clear who was involved and who was suspected of being involved. So what really happened was in the run up to his execution, Eamon Dunne had been going around. He caused a wave of murders. I mean, in a very short time at the head of that criminal gang, he'd been responsible for, it's estimated something between 16 and 18 murders, including people like Michael Rowley Cronin, John Paul Joyce, very serious players. And ultimately, he'd also started to act, I suppose, as a debt collector, a sort of freelance debt collector. As his reputation got worse, he started taking over debts for people. So if somebody owed you 200 grand and they weren't paying you, you'd sell it to Eamon Dunne you get 100 grand off him, and he went around calling into people's homes basically and threatening their parents in many cases. But ultimately, between all of the murders and all of the debt collecting, he basically brought too much Garda attention on the Kinahan organisation, and they carried out this murder. There was signs it was going to happen. A phone call actually to Gary Hutch at one point was, there was, it certainly seems to have been, the guards were aware of a phone call where he was indicating that something was going to be done.
Yeah.
And the people that carried out this, or certainly were involved in this murder, were right at the top of the Kinahan Cartel.
Yeah, and they were later involved, like heavily involved in the feud as well.
Yes, very much so, and very much so involved in some of the more high-profile feud killings. Of course, there were people arrested, as you said, including James Mago Gately, who, when you look back on it, the people that the other people that are suspected of being involved in, they would become mortal enemies with Mago Gately. But of course, at that stage, they were all the one organisation. Now, Gately has never been charged in connection with it. He was questioned about it, but never faced any, nothing ever happened.
No.
He remains certainly innocent of that crime.
Yeah.
But it was a particularly consequential murder, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was Eamon The Don Dunne. Am I right in saying that he was suspected of maybe acting as a spotter or a driver in relation to the Marlow Highland murder?
Well, what was always said about Marlow Highland was it's pretty clear, and we've named them before, the people who actually went into the house, and two men went into the house. And obviously, Anthony Campbell was shot because he was a witness, an innocent plumber. But it was said about Eamon Dunne that he may have collected them in a car in the aftermath.
Yeah.
Now, obviously he was never charged with that, but that was always one of the big suspicions.
Yeah.
So, he then took over, I think, because Marlow Highland had become such a target for Gardaí, he took over with the sort of stated intention of quietening things down.
Yeah.
But just escalated it onto a total and utter rampage really of murders. I mean, and most of them unsolved. I suppose if you look back now, the vast majority of those murders were never solved, where in recent times we've seen such a high conviction rate in relation to gangland murders.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see kind of the gang bosses who have tried to sort of like rule with that kind of iron fist in recent times, like Mr. Flashy, and that a lot of them are behind bars now, whereas like these criminals seem to have it seemed to be a time where there was a lot of them being taken out, as you mentioned there, like, and then because it was Eamon The Don Dunne, he was kind of under the guidance of Eamon Kelly, and then he was killed a couple of years later, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
So a lot of those big, that's how they operated back then, but it doesn't really, I don't think it would work now.
No, well, murders are just less common at the moment.
Yeah.
Things do tend to go in cycles. So the new development, if approval is given, it will include 249 student bed spaces arranged into 32 groupings of between 4 and 10 bedroom blocks. So I presume that means you have a kind of a common area, does it?
Yeah.
And then you have...
you have
they share it.
A little kitchenette and all that kind of thing. Yeah. Now it must be said that there was plans. I think Sinn Féin leader Mary Lou MacDonald, she objected to it, and obviously she's out that way. So it was the same developer, and they were looking for a 117 unit build to rent apartment scheme. So that wasn't obviously student, but it would have been for a big developer to come in, and then they make these really expensive apartments and you can't buy them, you have to rent them. So that was refused by An Bord Pleanála in 2022. So, remains to be seen. Maybe a student combination will get the go-ahead, because it might be seen to be more
what?
Useful to the economy, although you don't seem to think of it that way.
I just don't know why they don't build
you obviously clearly aren't living down the country with kids who have to travel up and down because they can't find anywhere to live in Dublin.
But that's my point, they're not going to be able to live there.
Yeah, well,
they're going to have students in there for 9 months with no particular tenants' rights, so they're not going to be. That would be the point, actually, is what I'm saying.
No, but the students I'm talking about, that have to travel up and down because they can't get somewhere to live. So,
okay. Okay, well, we won't fall out over this one, because we fall plenty of other things to fall out over instead.
Yeah, well, yeah, true.
Okay. Thanks, Eimear.
Thanks.